Ooh, this guy's studying for the IELTS exam, and he's studying for writing task 2. Here's the question he's looking at. Large supermarkets are expanding in many countries. Some people are afraid that mom and pop shops will be run out of business. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Do you know how to answer questions like this? Well, in this lesson, I'm going to teach you how to answer a question that asks for the extent of your agreement. Hey, if you like getting tips like this, I would be so happy if you subscribe to my channel right down there. Okay, so the first thing I want to mention is mom and pop shops. Do you know what this term means? A mom and pop shop is a family-owned business, just like a small store, somewhere that usually sells like, I don't know, food, just like a convenience store or a clothing store, just some small little store. Okay, a small family-owned business. Now this can be written different ways like this: mom and pop shop, mom and pop shop, mom and pop shop. Okay, or store instead of shop. Okay, so there's different ways you can write that. Now, run out of business. Do you know what this expression means? If something is run out of business, that means it can't compete. Okay, if a big store moves next to a small store, the big store might run the small store out of business, right? Because the big store can offer more competitive prices. Okay, so when a business goes out of business, that means it goes bankrupt. It stops existing. Okay, so let's take a look at the question. So large supermarkets are expanding in many countries. Some people are afraid that mom and pop shops will be run out of business. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this? Okay, so look at this. To what extent? Okay, that's asking for the range of agreement and disagreement. Okay, do you agree this much? Do you agree this much? This much? This much? Okay, that's what it's asking. To what extent? It's not asking, do you agree or disagree? It's sort of asking that, but it's asking for the range. Okay, and that's what you need to know how to answer. Okay, so, you could answer with things like this. I wholeheartedly agree. I completely agree. I generally agree, but there are a few exceptions. Okay, I partially agree. You can give sort of two sides to the argument. You could say I disagree. Okay, or I completely disagree. Okay, these are just some of the ways you could answer this question. Or you could say something like this: I agree insofar as. I agree insofar as. Have you ever seen this word before? It's a very fancy word. It's not too fancy, but it might be good if you use a word like this on the test because it looks really fancy. Okay, I agree insofar as. I agree up to the point that. Okay, I'm going to give you some examples of these sentences in a little bit, but let's take a look at the question again. Okay, so to what extent do you agree or disagree with this? So if a big supermarket sort of, expands, are small shops going to be run out of business? Okay, well, we could make a sentence like this. I generally agree that small stores will suffer from the expansion of larger stores. However, I do not believe all mom and pop shops will go out of business. Okay, look at this sentence. This is a very good sentence. Do you understand it? Can you write sentences like this? Okay, I generally agree that small stores will suffer from the expansion of larger stores. Mostly. Most of the time I agree with that. Yeah, it's a good statement. I agree. However, I do not believe all mom and pop shops will go out of business. Okay, so you're saying you sort of agree mostly, but you don't agree completely. Okay, you don't wholeheartedly, you don't completely agree. You generally agree. Now, look at this sentence. This sentence has about 30 words. Okay, a sentence like this has about 30 words. So, how many words do you need when you answer task 2 on the IELTS? Well, you should write about 270 words. So, think about it. If you have a sentence like this that's 30 words, that means you need you need fewer than 10 sentences in your answer. Okay, that's crazy. But I mean, all your sentences won't be this long, right? You should have some sentence variety, some long sentences like this, some medium sentences, maybe a few short sentences, but you should definitely know how to write sentences like this. If you write sentences like this on the IELTS, you will get a perfect, well, maybe not quite perfect, but I think you'll get a very high score on the test, which is what you want, right? And that's what I want. That's why I'm making lessons like this. Hey, if you want more tips on IELTS and this kind of stuff, that's why I ask, hey, I'd be so happy if you subscribe because I want to help you do better on the IELTS. Okay, so let's take a look at this sentence. I disagree that mom and pop shops will go out of business because of larger supermarkets. However, I believe they may become less profitable if larger supermarkets expand into their communities. Okay, so in this one, I mean, we're basically just saying the same thing, right? Or it's a similar kind of sentence, okay? I disagree that mom and pop shops will go out of business because of larger supermarkets. However, I believe they may become less profitable if larger supermarkets expand into their communities. Great sentence. Okay, so let's take a look at another sentence. I partially agree with this because large supermarkets can be more competitive with their pricing. However, many mom and pop shops will remain in business simply due to the convenience of their location. Okay, so here we have sort of two parts, right? Partially agree. We're saying why we agree and sort of why we disagree. Okay, so why do we agree? Well, large supermarkets can be more competitive in their pricing. Yeah, that's true, right? A big store has more purchasing power. They can use economies of scale. It's an economic term, economies of scale. Okay, however, many mom and pop shops will remain in business simply due to the convenience of their location, right? So you're saying that this, the competitive pricing isn't the only factor to consider. I mean, just the convenience factor is really what makes mom and pop shops successful, right? If you don't have enough time to drive to Walmart to buy something, you can just go to your local store and buy it there. So a sentence like this is just a great sentence. If you can make sentences like this, you're going to do really well. Okay, let's take a look at another sentence here. I generally disagree with this belief. However, it is possible that mom and pop shops will be somewhat affected if larger stores open within walking distance of their community. Okay, so this one we're saying, no, you know what, mom and pop shops, they're going to be okay. There's no relationship between larger stores expanding and mom and pop shops going out of business. No, I disagree. I generally disagree with that. However, now we're adding a little bit of, something. However, it is possible that mom and pop shops will be somewhat affected. Not too affected, just somewhat affected if larger stores open within walking distance. Okay, walking distance. So that's a factor we're bringing in. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look at a different question. Okay, forget about the supermarkets for a bit. Let's look at this. Many immigrants to Canada feel that the host country has not done enough to welcome them and make them feel at home. Because of this, natural-born Canadians should do more to help immigrants feel at home. Do you agree or disagree? To what extent do you agree or disagree with this? Okay, because of this, natural-born Canadians should do more to help immigrants feel at home. What's your answer going to be? To what extent? Well, you could say this. I agree that Canadians should do more insofar as immigrants are willing to be flexible and assimilate into Canadian culture. Okay, so here we have this word, insofar. So you're saying, yes, I agree that Canadians should do more as long as, okay, so insofar sort of means as long as immigrants are willing to be flexible and assimilate. Assimilate means to adapt, to fit into Canadian culture. Yeah, a sentence like that is pretty good. That's a fair argument, right? Canadians should do more, but, you know, they should only do more as long as immigrants do their part too, right? Both people have to work. And I've made other lessons here at Mad English TV talking about immigration and making, you know, talking to both sides saying, hey, you need to do more, because Canada sort of has these parallel societies that don't mix very well. So I would love to see this happening more in Canada. Okay, I agree that Canadians should do more to help immigrants up to the point that it does not get in the way of their other commitments. Okay, so this is a very similar sentence to the insofar sentence. Okay, look at this. Up to the point. What does that mean? That means, yes, Canadians should do more up to the point that it doesn't get in the way of their other commitments. For example, if someone has a family and they're doing so much to help immigrants and they're neglecting their own family, it's not good to neglect your own family, right? So, I mean, there's a certain point. That's what this answer is saying. Yes, Canadians should do more up to the point that it doesn't interfere or it does not get in the way of their other commitments like family, work, that kind of stuff. Okay, so these kinds of sentences are very, very good to learn how to make, and I think they'd be very helpful. So I hope it's been helpful to sort of see some of these sentences. I hope seeing examples like this is helpful for you. If it is, I'd be so happy if you give me a like on this video. That helps my videos get a little bit more popular on YouTube. But hey, let's do some homework. Okay, many airline passengers get annoyed by screaming babies on their flights. That's true. I've gotten annoyed by screaming babies. Okay. Some people have proposed that airlines ban children below age 5 from flying on their planes. Okay. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this proposal? Do you think airlines should ban kids under age 5, or do you think they should allow them? To what extent? Remember, we're talking about the range. So I want you to try to make one sentence. That's it. For this homework, just make one big sentence answering this question and post it down there in the comments, and I'll give you some feedback on it. Okay, I'll see you over in the next episode of Mad English TV. Take care.